Okay, The End of Gender by Debra So. Most authors dedicate their books to loved ones or inspirational teachers. Debra So, sexologist and neuroscientist, dedicated her new book, The End of Gender, debunking the myths about sex and identity in our society, to everyone who blocked me on Twitter. It's a fitting tribute since aggressive opposition to So's spirited defense of science against the prevailing theory based on base doctrines of trans movement has guided So's professional trajectory for a number of years now. As So informs readers, at the outset, she left her 11-year research career in academia because it was clear her field had been compromised by trans activism and her freedom to explore her subject, gender, sex, and sexual orientation, which is continually shrinking, assessing the long, ugly history between transgender activists and sexologists. She could see no foreseeable end to the tensions and seed to a career in journalism. Playboy, The Globe, Mail, Scientific American, Quillette, and others. From her first article arguing against early transition for children, the mobbing began and never let up. But neither did supportive encouragement from ordinary people who find themselves baffled and disturbed by dogmas and vocabulary. People who menstruate that makes no sense to them, and which many women find offensive. I certainly do. So wrote the book for them, to answer your questions at a time when it's next to impossible to tell apart politically motivated ideas from scientific truth. The book is organized around a series of trans movement assumptions. So identifies as myths: that biological sex is a spectrum, that gender is a social construct, that there are more than two genders, that sexual orientation and gender identity are unrelated, and so forth. It would take thousands of words to do justice to the book as a whole, as it covers such a side gamut of trans-related issues, and each one handily. So's chapter on the social cognition of rapid onset gender dysphoria, ROGD, in teenage girls, for example, is superb, but wordage is the usual pesky constraint for columnists, so this cannot rise to the level of the review the book deserves. I'll let you listen to a little bit of a snippet of when she was on the Joe Rogan Experience talking about this issue.
Tucker Carlson was pressing him on it. And who doesn't believe in gay marriage, who decides he's a woman, which I firmly believe he's trans. I'm not denying that at all. But our obsession with it and rewarding him with ungodly amounts of attention. Mm-hmm. This motherfucker won the gold medal, okay, in the decathlon. Was it decathlon? Was it?
Sorry about the cursing.
Right? Yeah. I mean, he was on the cover of Wheaties.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a fucking U.S. superstar athlete.
Bruce Jenner they're talking about.
No attention after that. He was the whipping boy of the Kardashians on the TV
Bruce
show.
Jenner.
They mocked him. It's like, here's this one person with fucking talent in your
Rob
whole
too.
house.
Don't they mock Rob a bit?
Yeah, because he's fat. But then they go right to that. He becomes a woman, and now he is the toast of the town.
Yeah.
He wins Woman of the fucking Year. He's a woman for 6 months, and he wins Woman of the Year. He wins ESPN Athlete of the Year. He has been an athlete in fucking decades, since Nixon was president, right? Mm-hmm. Or Carter. Who was it? Either way. This is madness.
Yeah.
Like, this is, we're not treating this in a balanced way. We are rewarding people that instead of like, because people are so, they're so ready to proclaim their progressiveness and so excited about it that they, instead of treating them like as an equal, they go completely the other way. Yeah. So they're definitely not prejudiced. They're definitely not discriminating against them, but they're absolutely inflating what this person is.
Yeah.
And they're making it a big, giant deal that they're trans. Like, it's great to support people. I would like to live in a world where there's no racism at all.
Mm-hmm.
So you could mock everyone equally.
Yeah.
Like, this is my big problem with real racism. There's a lot of dummies in every race.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to be real careful picking on some dummies. Like, especially if you're a white male, straight white male, oppressor.
You guys are the devil nowadays.
The devil! Especially if you look like me. I mean, I look like the devil. So this is a real problem with, like, looking at things in a balanced perspective, because you're not allowed to.
Mm-hmm.
You're not allowed to. Like, even what you said earlier, you said gender dysphoria.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's considered transphobic.
Yeah, you can't even say that anymore, even though that is a legitimate medical condition.
Yes.
It's because some people see it as you pathologizing being the way someone feels, I guess. But in my mind, I don't think the issue is the pathology. I think it's fine to acknowledge there are certain things, like any medical condition that causes you distress and impairment. That's the definition of a psychiatric diagnosis. So you should be able to recognize that it's not a bad thing. I think the bad thing is the stigma that comes along with having a mental disorder. So that's what should be fought. It's the stigma aspect, not calling something a mental disorder. If someone's really suffering, that's not a good thing.
No, it's not a good thing. And also the denial of these conditions and the denial of the science behind these conditions. Yeah. This is the issue with progressive people today, is that there's certain things where they embrace science and certain things where they deny it. And in gender in particular, seems to be so hotly contested. And I don't know when this happened. It seems to have happened right in front of our face. Like it just came out of the ground, like a plant that was growing in the cracks.
And now it's too late. You try to stomp it out, and it won't go away.
Weird. I'm wondering where the shit. Like I didn't see this coming, and it's fascinating to see.
Yeah, I think feminism is part of it. The mainstream aspect of this really far left feminism. I used to call myself a feminist. I don't anymore, just because the things that people used to say feminism stood for, like hating men, being, I don't know, just...
But they don't say that.
Well,
no
they
one
do.
says,
Some of them do.
They say
they hate men. Oh, yeah. I have friends who say, male friends who say to me, my female friend said that men are trash. Is that normal?
Well, there's a woman that I know that's a feminist that has on her Twitter account, it says, trust no man. Like, just openly proclaiming that.
Yeah.
Well, if you're straight, good luck. Good luck with your life.
Yeah.
You're saying trust no man.
But imagine if you said it about women.
That would be a terrible thing.
Yeah, that'd be awful as well. But
yeah, you'd be a
acceptable.
misogynist.
It's acceptable to hate on men now.
Well, nobody criticizes misandry. You know, it's not something that gets brought up.
Yeah.
I've never even said that word before. I've only written it and said it, or written it and heard it.
I mean, I get it. I do. I think feminism at the core had some good aspects in the beginning, but it's just gone off the rails more recently.
Well, equality has great aspects, but I think the problem with any, like, white power is obviously awful, right? You say white power. Well, you're what you mean is you're racist against other races. You're into white people, but brown power is okay. Brown pride's okay, right?
Well, nowadays they see it that way, yeah.
Male pride is not
okay.
good, not okay. But girl pride is fine.
Yeah.
Girl power is okay.
Yeah.
But it's fucking weird because you're generalizing. You're lumping yourself into a group of people just because you all have vaginas.
And the thing is, we don't all think the same. But the minute you, as a woman, say something that goes against girl power, they will descend on you. Yes,
I've seen that too. Well, it's like you're threatening the collective agreed upon narrative.
Yeah.
And it's like the way girls treat sluts. Girls get very mad if a girl just decides to have sex with as many people as she wants. Because then you're fucking up this whole economy of controlling the narrative of when women decide to or not decide.
The value of sex goes down that way too.
Yes, which is why prostitution's illegal.
Yeah, I see both sides. I see some women, which I find interesting because I think it's confusing for young women now who are starting to date and they think, I don't really want to have casual sex, but I'm being told that's what I should do.
Is that what they're being told?
I think so. I think
by who?
By the media. More like it's empowering to go out and sleep with as many people as you want and to be like a man. Like if you look at college campuses and
Okay, so it's a really long podcast, 3 hours, so you could listen to it for yourself, and you could, see the information there. Instead, I'll focus on what I find to be So's core message, delivered via her beautiful, calm, rational, and precision-guided dissection of the inherent contradictions within the movement's catechism. For many readers who have been half persuaded to acquiesce from constant exposure to the mantras, So challenges her expose will fall like rain on parched earth. According to So, then fact, there are only two biological sexes, and they are not assigned at birth. Male and female gametes, eggs, sperm, determine our sex, and sex is binary, not a spectrum. Fact, gender too, both with regard to identity and expression, is biologically based and therefore binary. It is not a social construct, nor is it divided from anatomy or sexual orientation. Classic feminists gave us the concept of social construction. Feminists believe gender differences in interests, presentation, and behaviors are due to patriarchy and learned behavior. Science tells us otherwise. So says male and female brains are demonstratively different. Now, So says feminist chickens are coming home to roost because this is a trenchant insight. If gender is thought to be learned, masculinity will remain the gold standard, and femininity will be reduced to aberrations of it. Gender fluidity is trending briskly among millennials, many of whom self-identify as transgender, gender, bigender, and queer, and genderqueer, which can mean just about anything. As more people take on these labels, So observes, being non-binary has become a way to find community, a sense of belonging, and acceptance. She cites a Pew report that a third of Gen Zers and a quarter of millennials know someone who uses non-binary pronouns like they, as compared to a sixth of Gen Xers. So's observation is backed up by a recent questionnaire out of Evergreen State College, in which a full 50% of students self-identify as LGBT or questioning. By normalizing and banalizing the concept of gender fluidity, that is, by inviting the whimsical, transient, the mentally fragile, the mentally ill, even the opportunistic and sexually predatory into a small forum traditionally reserved for those with irreversible gender dysphoria, therefore legitimately entitled to medically aided transition. The movement has radically increased the numbers within trans identifying fold. But this artificial demographic swell has come about at a huge cost to credulous children, vulnerable, troubled teenagers, women athletes, and indeed all women who are now forced to share intimate space with male bodies as the sole basis of unintegrated gender self-identification. So is particularly troubled by one of the more grievous consequences of the cult-like trans movement, social self-promotion, namely the concomitant social demotion tending to an erasure of gays and lesbians. So it's basically the trans movement encroaching on gay and lesbian rights and wanting to take over. Okay. The book of Romans talks about the reprobate mind, okay, when men and women gave up their natural affections for each other and burned in lust for one another, and they rejected the truth. And, God gave them up to a reprobate mind. And this is just more and more of the fruit of it. Okay. By non-binary activist definition, everyone on the planet is gender non-binary. So says the result is that merely gender non-conforming children, effeminate boys, the great majority of them who would realize they were gay after puberty, and butch girls who become lesbians are encouraged in childhood to gravitate towards some form of trans self-identification instead of being allowed to grow into their biologically accepting authentic sexuality. I'm constantly amazed, So writes in dismay, at the number of gay men who will publicly defend child transitioning when the movement is leading to the extermination of gay children. Now, personally, to me, look, I don't agree with children being gay. I don't. Okay, children are children. They don't know what that stuff is. They don't know what that lifestyle is. Let them be kids. Okay. And I'm definitely against it because there's some serious consequences in the gay lifestyle. For gay men, it's rectal cancer, the fact of being penetrated anally to the point where you lose control of your stool, mouth gonorrhea. There are a whole bunch of medical consequences for being gay. Okay, a whole lot of them. And lesbians, it's, this stuff is a mental illness. Okay. Being gay, being trans, all this is a mental illness. Okay. And you can see how it's just turning on its head. The transsexuals are coming after the gays, and trying to make everybody be transsexual. And if there's a high suicide rate among them that's not talked about. And if the doctors do talk about it, they will lose their right to practice medicine and have their license revoked. Shouldn't we all be dismayed by the harms this movement is causing? So, and her publishers, Simon and Schuster, have shown courage in standing firm for science and reason in the midst of a moral panic that has gripped our institutions and scattered objectivity to the four winds. For that, they merit our material and moral support. Okay. This is it's crazy, man. I mean, and they're trying to force this down your throat. All right. They're definitely trying to force this down your throat. And if you talk up against it, you'll be punished for it. All I can say for Christians, stay prayed up, and because it's a fight, especially for our children, because they're trying to bring this into our schools. They are basically trying to normalize this through cartoons, comic books, movies, children's movies. I mean, they even got drag queens, trying to talk to kids in, storybook time in libraries. It is crazy. Okay, this lifestyle altogether is evil, and they're trying to push it on people. So Christians are just going to have to be prayed up and be very resourceful if they try to take away your income because you're standing up for Christ. It's basically how it is. All right, peace and God bless.